Just comment down if I am audible. Okay. Let's wait for 2 to 3 minutes so that others can join, and then we will start off. Okay, so 1 minute more and then we will start off with the Elizabethan age, and I'll be giving you an overview, a summary of the literary output along with the historical background. Okay, I can see 5 people here and I'll be starting off now. You need to be a bit more active in the comment section, the chat box, because I'll be asking you questions and then I need your answer and the feedback to continue the class. So in the last class, in the last live session, I talked about Anglo-Saxon age, the first age in the literary history of Britain. And it was also known as the Old English period. Now, right after the Old English period, I told you that in the year 1066, the Middle English period started. And it lasted almost till 1400. It lasted almost till 1400. And then several kings and queens and several dynasties ruled in the British throne. Now, what happened? What happened right after this Middle English, several changes happened, okay, in the background, in the historical background. What happened? See, the Middle English is known as the Dark Age, okay, because due to some political pressure and moreover the religious pressure, there were very little output in the history of Britain. Why? Because most of the Catholic churches were corrupted and they used to extract money on several occasions. So what happened? Under the pressure of these religious persons, there was no such development in the literary history. What happened in the age of Elizabeth? Elizabeth is the first powerful queen in the Britain's history. With the increase in the corruption in the religious ground, a movement happened, and that is known as Reformation. It was started in the first half of the 16th century with Martin Luther. I hope all of you know this. Just comment down yes if you know the name of Martin Luther. Do you know the name of Martin Luther? Just comment down if you know it. Do you know the name of Martin Luther? Have you read it in history? Just comment yes so that I can know that you know these little bit of history. Okay, so you know the name of Martin Luther, right? So Martin Luther started a movement called Reformation. Reformation এর বাংলা সংস্কার. Okay, so what kind of reformation he made? He posted some 95 theses on a church in Germany. Okay, so the Reformation, the movement called Reformation started in Germany. Okay, so what happened? Now people followed his footsteps. They protested, common mass, they protested against the corruption of the Catholic churches. And Protestant churches were established. What is a Protestant church? In Catholic churches, there were bishops, priests, archbishops, all these religious personalities who used to read out the Bible and make sermons to the mass. যারা বাইবেল থেকে যীশু খ্রিস্টের বাণী পড়ে শোনাতো. What happened in Protestant churches? In Protestant churches, there were no bishops, there were no priests. The Bible used to stay there. Anyone can read the Bible. Now, in Catholic churches, the Bible the copies of the Bibles were written in Latin, and the common mass could not, read Latin. Hello. Could not read Latin. Okay. So what happened? They used to be dependent on the priests. Priests যা বলছে বাইবেল থেকে common mass তাই সেটাই বিশ্বাস করছে, কারণ they could not read Latin, right? See, আমাদের এখানে কি হয়, আমরা এখানে গীতা পড়ি বাংলাতে, অনেকেই আমরা সংস্কৃত জানি না, কিন্তু অরিজিনালি গীতা কিসে লেখা? সংস্কৃতে লেখা। রামায়ণ মহাভারত কিসে লেখা? সংস্কৃতে লেখা। তো এই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজগুলো আমরা জানি না, আমরা কিসে পড়ি? ট্রান্সলেশনে। ঠিক আছে, তাহলে সিমিলারলি ইফ দ্য পিপল had to read the original Bible that has to be in English, but until Martin Luther made this Reformation movement, all the Bibles were written in Latin. So there was no scope for the common mass to read it on their own. Clear? Is it clear up to this? Just comment down. বোঝা গেলে একটু কমেন্ট করো, যেটা বললাম বোঝা গেল? So what happened after it? Translations of Bible started to come into existence. বাইবেলের ট্রান্সলেশন আসতে শুরু করলো. Translations of Bible started to come into existence. Okay. Now, see, all these things were happening in Germany. সব কিছু জার্মানিতে হচ্ছে. Now, at this point of time, King Henry VIII, অষ্টম Henry, King Henry VIII was ruling England. Who was Henry VIII? Henry VIII was the father of Queen Elizabeth. Now, Henry VIII had a problem with the Catholic churches. Now, what was the problem? Henry VIII did not have a child with his first wife. নিঃসন্তান ছিলেন. Now, he wanted to divorce his wife. But according to the Catholic, rule, Catholic religious rule, you cannot divorce your wife. You cannot remarry until your first wife is alive. প্রথম স্ত্রী জীবিত থাকাকালীন তুমি দ্বিতীয়বার বিয়ে করতে পারবে না. This was the Catholic rule. Now the king said, I am the king. আমি তো রাজা. I will make the rules. Why the church people will make the rules? So he had a quarrel with the Vatican City. And he, distanced himself and his country from the Catholic churches and followed Martin Luther's footsteps and established Protestant churches in England. So it is with Henry VIII that we have Protestantism in England. This might come as short questions, that who brought Protestantism in England, and the answer will be King Henry VIII. Is it clear? এই অবধি clear? একটু বলো, just let me know if it is clear. Okay, now what happens? After this Reformation, Renaissance takes place. Renaissance means rebirth. You have read it in your school level history. Banglaয় একে বলে নবজাগরণ. You all have read it in your history. In English, it is Renaissance. It is a Latin term. It means rebirth. Now, rebirth of what? Rebirth of classical literature. Rebirth মানে পুনর্জন্ম. কিসের পুনর্জন্ম? Classical literature of Greece and Rome. Remember, before the birth of Christ, a very developed civilization used to take place in Greece and Rome. Where in Greece, you may have heard of Olympic Games that started in ancient Greece. You may have known about the existence of amphitheater, the dome-like structure amphitheater. It had its existence in the ancient Greece. So ancient Greek and Roman civilization were, very, very famous and developed. Okay. So these two civilizations, excelled, made high improvements in the fields of literature and culture. So in this age, the sensible people were trying to revive that classical culture, and this is called Renaissance or rebirth of classical literature. Is it clear? Let me know. Okay. Okay. If you have any question, if I need to repeat anything, just let me know in the comment box. Okay? যদি কিছু রিপিট করতে হয়, বুঝতে পারছো না, আমাকে বলবে, আমি রিপিট করে দেব। একটু কমেন্ট বক্সে জানাবে, otherwise there is no such, two-way communication here. Just let me know in the comment section that you need to hear something again. So what happens? Next, the defeat of Spanish Armada. Please write down this year, 1589. 1589 is the year when Spanish Armada, okay, I'll repeat. Spanish Armada was defeated. What is Spanish Armada? It's, a kind of sea fight, okay? A group of ships, came at the shores of England to attack the country. But under the able leadership of Queen Elizabeth, they used to, England defeated the Spanish Armada. And with this, the political, power of Queen Elizabeth and England was established in that part of the world. Spanish Armada ke ডিফিট করা বা হারানোর পর একটা পলিটিক্যাল পাওয়ার এস্টাবলিশ হলো ওই পার্টটাতে। ক্লিয়ার? ওকে, I was talking about the translation of Bible. What happened? In earlier times, the original Bible was written in Latin. The common people who did not know Latin, they could not read the book. It were the priests, the bishops, the church persons who used to read out, যারা পড়ে শোনাতো। In order to, এবার ধরো আমি তোমাকে গীতা থেকে একটা কিছু পড়ে শোনালাম, তোমরা আমার মুখের কথাই বিশ্বাস করবে, you will believe, you will trust what I say. So the common mass used to believe the church people, okay? এবং they used to be so corrupted, the church people used to be so corrupted যে ভুল ভাল কথা বলে টাকা আদায় করতো। আমি একটু পরে এক্সাম্পলস দিয়ে বলবো যে how they used to extract money. Sorry. So what happened? Martin Luther started to think about the translation. Have you heard the name of Gutenberg? You have read it, I'm sure you have read it in your history. Just let me know in the comment section saying yes if you know the name of Gutenberg, who started printing press. Remember? Just let me know in the comment section saying yes. Gutenberg is the one who first discovered, invented a printing machine. And yes. So when the translations were being made in English, from Latin to English, you need to have so many copies to distribute to the common people. So it was Gutenberg who took that task upon himself. He, in his printing press, printed a number of copies of those translated Bibles and distributed it to the common mass so that it can go to the common people and they can read it by themselves. What happened? I'll give you one story. It is not a story, it is from the literature. In Middle English, we have a renowned poet. His name is Geoffrey Chaucer. Do you know his name? Just let me know in the comment section again if you know Chaucer's name. If you know Chaucer's name, just let me know. Chaucer-এর নাম শুনেছো কিনা একটু বলো? Right. So Chaucer, in his famous poem called the Canterbury Tales, talks about some of the church persons who were corrupted. How were they corrupted? They used to extract money and used to sell mercy. Akash is saying no, ma'am. Okay, I'll be doing Middle English, but later. Since this Elizabethan age is very important, so I'm doing it right now. So what happened? Chaucer is saying that this church people were so corrupted that they used to take money and sell mercy. Mercy মানে ক্ষমা যে আমরা সেটাকে বিক্রি করত. Suppose a person has gone to the church and confessed that I had, murdered a man. Okay? Every church has a confession area where you can confess your guilt, your crime, কোনো অপরাধ করে থাকলে, পাপ করে থাকলে you can confess. So suppose a man goes to the church and confesses that I have murdered. Now what would the corrupted church people say? They would say, okay, you will be given mercy, but you need to give me this amount of money. In exchange of this amount of money, I will give you mercy. You will not be punished. Do you think any scriptures, any religion supports this kind of nuances? Any religion says such nuisance that in exchange of money, all your sins will be, you will be not punished. এরকম কি বলে কোন ধর্মে যে খুন করো, রেপ করো, যাই করো, টাকা দিলে সেটা সব 7 খুন মাফ? Do you think any such religion supports this? No. I know your answer will be no. But they used to extract money. Why? Because the common mass could not read the original Bible. They could not read what is written. And the church people would say that yes, it is written that if you give this amount of money, this sin will be excused. That is why Martin Luther protested against this and started Protestantism and took upon himself the responsibility of, translating Bible. Okay, is this clear? Let me know if this is clear. Just say yes. Okay. Akash. Yes. Now what happened? After Reformation, Renaissance comes. I was telling about Renaissance and I told you that with the defeat of Spanish Armada, the political power of England, spreaded across the continent. And with this, a stability came. Before this age, England was busy fighting its armies. England was busy in, too much battles. There was no stability. In Elizabethan age, we find a stability, and also the expansion of colony started to happen. Expansion of colony মানে উপনিবেশ স্থাপন করতে শুরু করলো. It was in Elizabeth's time that East India Company later came to England. And at that point of time, Jahangir was ruling India. Okay? Is it clear so far? Just say yes, and if any points need to be repeated, just let me know. Okay. So Queen Elizabeth's age was called a golden period. Okay. A sense of peace prevailed, and when stability happens, peace comes, you can give your whole attention to creativity, to the cultural development. This age was peaceful, this age had stability, so a lot of writers, a lot of prose writers, dramatists, poets, they came into existence and produced quality literary work. We will start with Elizabethan age poetry. I told you that at this point of time, expansion of colony started. Expansion of colony means উপনিবেশ স্থাপন করা. At this point of time, East India Company came to India. Okay? And at that point of time, India was being ruled by Jahangir. Okay? Is it clear now, Aditya? Okay. So we will start with poetry of the Elizabethan age. Now I told you that at this point Renaissance was taking place, and Renaissance started in Italy. Another important short question, you probably have read it in your school life, that this নবজাগরণ started in Italy. ইটালিতে শুরু হয়েছিল. So this Queen Elizabeth was so fond of culture and literature that he wanted to know what is happening in Italy at that point of time. What kind of development in cultural and literature was happening. So he sent two of his courtiers. Courtiers মানে সভাসদ. He sent two of his courtiers to Italy. I will write their names in the chat box. They were Thomas Wyatt and Henry Howard. Thomas Wyatt and Henry Howard. Henry Howard is also known as Earl of Surrey. Henry Howard is also known as Earl of Surrey. They were two courtiers, but they were poets as well. So they went to Italy to witness what were happening at that point of time. So they saw that a typical poetical form is very famous in Italy, and that is sonnet. Can anybody tell me what is a sonnet in the chat box? I'm waiting for your reply. Just tell me in one or two lines what is a sonnet. What is a sonnet? Just one or in two lines. What is a sonnet? If you have no idea, then tell me that ma'am, we do not know what is a sonnet. If you know, then write it down. I'm giving you 1 minute. Write it down. What is a sonnet? Do you know? If you do not know, then tell me that also. I'll be continuing them. What is a sonnet? You have read it in Bengali as well. You have read it in English as well. Many of you have read a sonnet by Shakespeare in your class 12 board. Akash, how many lines? You have missed the line numbers. The number of how many lines? No, it's 14. Orindom is right. I will talk about lyrics by virtue of love. I will talk about the thematic part later. It is not always about love. But yes, a sonnet is typically a 14 lines poem. In Bengali, we call it Choturdosh Podi Kobita. In Bengali, we call it Choturdosh Podi Kobita. First Bengali sonnet was written by Michael Madhusudan Datta. Okay, so a sonnet is typically a 14 line poems. In Italy, people were writing sonnets. The first one, sonnet was, first written by Giacomo de Lentini. Giacomo de Lentini. I am writing the name. It can come as short question. Also, you can write his name in your long answer. Giacomo de Lentini, who is a lawyer, and he wrote a sonnet to please the contemporary King Frederick II. He wrote the first ever sonnet. He is a lawyer by profession, and he wrote a sonnet to please the King Frederick II. After the sonnet was first written, there came a number of poets in Italy who were, who were busy refining the poetical form. Among these poets, we can name two, Dante, Petrarch. Dante and Petrarch. I am writing the names. Dante, Petrarch. They are Italian poets who made the sonnet form famous. They made the sonnet form so famous that Italian sonnet is now known as Petrarchan sonnet. Italian sonnet is now known as Petrarchan sonnet. Petrarchan sonnet. Okay. Is it clear? What was the theme? The basic theme of these sonnets was love. Mostly they dedicated these sonnets to their beloved or wife. Okay. About religious sonnet we will discuss later. So these sonnets were mostly dedicated to their loved ones or wife. Now I was telling that Elizabeth sent two courtiers, Thomas Wyatt and Henry Howard, to witness this. They learnt the form and came back. Okay. They learnt the forms and came back and started writing in the similar fashion. This Italian or Petrarchan sonnet has two stanzas. First stanza contains 8 lines. 8 lines. It is called an octave. Orindom said it absolutely rightly. This is octave. The first 8 lines. The next stanza contains 6 lines and it is called the sestet. In Bengali, we call it Ashtok, 8 lines, and Shostok, 6 lines. So 8 plus 6 is equal to 14. But when it came to England by Wyatt and Surrey, it underwent a bit of transformation. The stanza divisions were changed. We will talk about that a bit later. Let me know first if you have any problems so far. এত অবধি কোনো প্রবলেম আছে কিনা আমাকে একটু বলো। If you have any problem, just let me know. Do I need to repeat something? Okay. Let us talk about the rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme means the end words used to rhyme. Onto mil. লাস্টের ওয়ার্ডগুলো প্রত্যেকটা লাইনের শেষ ওয়ার্ডে একটা মিল থাকবে। মিলটা কিভাবে থাকবে? দিস ইজ দ্য rhyme scheme. A, B, B, A, B, B, A. The first 8 lines or the octave used to have this kind of rhyme scheme. A, B, B, A, B, B, A. That means first line will rhyme with the fourth line. Okay? Second line will rhyme with the third line. A, B, B, A. A and A are same, B and B same. The sestet used to have multiple variations. C, D, C, D, C, D. C, D, E, C, D, E. Okay? So, octave is generally the fixed, it had the fixed kind of rhyme scheme, A, B, B, A, B, B, A. The sestet used to have multiple kinds of rhyme scheme. C, D, C, D, C, D. C, D, C, C, D, C. C, D, E, C, D, E, etc. What about the English sonnets? Now, Thomas Wyatt and Surrey, Earl of Surrey, they used to write a number of sonnets. Their sonnets were published by a publisher. His name is Richard Tottle. His name is Richard Tottle. His name is Richard Tottle. Richard Tottle is a publisher who published some of the sonnets by various poets. He published a book called Tottle's Miscellany. Very important for your short question as well as 5 marks short note. Tottle's Miscellany. It was published in the year 1557. Okay, Tottle's Miscellany. Tottle's Miscellany. It was a book that had a number of sonnets by various writers. The name of the publisher is Richard Tottle. The name of the publisher is Richard Tottle. Is it clear so far? Is it clear so far? Just let me know by saying yes. এই অবধি বোঝা গেলে একটু লেখো কমেন্টে yes so that I can continue. And if you have any question, also say that. If anything need to be repeated, also say that. Okay. Okay, fine. Let us move on. After Wyatt and Surrey, you have one poet in your syllabus. That is Farewell Love by Thomas Wyatt. If you look at your syllabus, you have one sonnet by Thomas Wyatt saying Farewell Love. Next, we will look at sonnet sequence. What is a sonnet sequence? A sequence of sonnets is a group of sonnets generally having one theme. Sonnet sequence is a group of sonnets generally having one theme. First, we will talk about Philip Sidney. The first one under this category, we will talk about Philip Sidney. I am writing the name. Philip Sidney. Look at the spelling. Orindam, I didn't get your question. What is the full form of Tottle's Miscellany? It is Tottle's Miscellany. Tottle's Miscellany is the full form. By Richard Tottle. The name of the publisher is Richard Tottle. Orindam, if you have any other query, please write it down. I didn't get your question. You need to remember Tottle's Miscellany. It often comes as a short note of 5 marks. Also remember the publication year. Okay. So first, this category under the sonnet sequence, we have Philip Sidney. Philip Sidney wrote a sonnet sequence. It has 108 sonnets and 11 songs. The name of the sonnet sequence is Astrophel and Stella. Astrophel and Stella. Okay, Astrophel and Stella. I'll talk about it. Arindam, have you got your answer? Let me know. Astrophel and Stella. It was written in 1580s, but it was published by his sister after his death. It was published in 1591. By then, Philip Sidney died. Let me tell one thing about Philip Sidney. He was a soldier, a courtier and a poet. He was a soldier, a courtier and a poet. He died in the battlefield at the age of 32. At the age of 32, Philip Sidney died in the battlefield. So his book was published posthumously. Posthumous publication means mrittur pore jokhon kichu publish hoy. Publication happened after his death by his sister. Okay. So Astrophel means star lover. Star lover. Stella means star. So the name suggests that one is a star and the other is a star lover. This was dedicated to his beloved Penelope de Vedu. This was dedicated, the whole sonnet sequence was dedicated to his beloved Penelope de Vedu. Okay, Penelope de Vedu, important for short question. Remember, Penelope did not marry Philip Sidney, but they were in a relationship, but the marriage couldn't take place. So this book was dedicated to Penelope, and Penelope is the star here. Philip Sidney himself is the star lover. Penelope is the star here, the Stella, and the poet himself, Philip Sidney, is the star lover. Okay. So it had 108 sonnets. 108 sonnets, 11 songs. Songs means lyrical poems. Okay. Next, we have Edmund Spenser. Edmund Spenser. Look at the spelling of Spenser. It is not C. It is S. Spenser, the supermarket, has C in it. But this poet have S. Don't make a mistake. Edmund Spenser is our next poem under the category of sonnet sequence. His sonnet sequence is known as Amoretti. His sonnet sequence is known as Amoretti, and also this was dedicated to his wife called Elizabeth Boyle. This book of sonnet sequence called Amoretti was dedicated to his wife Elizabeth Boyle. Okay. Amoretti means amor. The word amor means love. So it is all about love. It had 89 sonnets. This book had 89 sonnets. Is it clear so far? Is it clear so far? Let me know in the chat box again, saying yes or no. If anything needs to be repeated, I'll repeat. Also tell me that. Is it clear so far? Okay, I'll continue then. The other poems written by Spenser, the famous one is the Fairy Queen. The Fairy Queen, dedicated to Elizabeth. Dedicated to Elizabeth. Okay, the Fairy Queen. Then he wrote the Shepherd's Calendars. These are not sonnets, these are long poems. Okay, but as we are discussing the poetry, we are discussing these. The Fairy Queen, it is the most famous work of Edmund Spenser. I am writing down in the chat box. Also, he wrote the Shepherd's Calendar. The Shepherd's Calendar. This is about 12 months. This is about 12 months. There are 12 eclogues or sections that talk about the 12 months of a calendar, of a year. Okay, Fairy Queen and the Shepherd's Calendar. Also, he wrote marriage songs known as Epithalamion and Prothalamion. These are two poems on marriage, Epithalamion, Prothalamion. I am writing down Epithalamion and Prothalamion. These are mostly the literary output, the poetical output of Spenser. Next we have William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets. William Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, and his book, name of the book is called Sonnets. Okay. Now I will give you these 154 sonnets are divided into three categories. I will give you the category name in the chat box. I'll give you the division in the chat box. 121 to 126 is fair youth sonnets. 1 to 126 is known as fair youth sonnets. 1 to 126 is a group. This group is known as fair youth sonnets. 127 to 152. 127 to 152 is known as black lady sonnets or dark lady sonnets. 127 to 152 is known as dark lady sonnets. And the last two, I told you that he wrote total 154 sonnets, and the last two are dedicated to Cupid. Do you know who is Cupid? Do you have any idea about Cupid? Let me know in the chat box. The last two sonnets, 153 and 154, they are dedicated to Cupid. Do you know who is Cupid? If you have any idea about Cupid, let me know in the chat box. Else I'll tell you. Just let me know. Do you have any idea about Spenser wrote The Fairy Queen, and that was dedicated to Queen Elizabeth. Okay, the Fairy Queen means the fair queen. In the poem, she is known as Gloriana. The Fairy Queen was dedicated to the Queen Elizabeth, but Amoretti was dedicated to his wife Elizabeth. Right, he is the Greek god of love. He is blind, absolutely right, and he is a baby with bow and arrow in his hands. He is blind, a baby having bow and arrow. He shoots those arrows, and it is said that the person he shoots at fall in love and get married. So marriage is made in heaven. Okay, we always say this, that matches are made in heaven. So it is observed, it is believed by the Greeks that Cupid shoots the arrows to a male and a female and they are bound to fall in love. Or Joita, have you got your answer? The Fairy Queen was dedicated to the Queen Elizabeth and Amority was dedicated to his wife Elizabeth. Joita, please please reply if you have got your answer. Okay. So we were talking about Shakespeare's sonnets. So he wrote total 154 sonnets in 3 categories. 1 to 126 is called fervour sonnets. You have 2 sonnets from the syllabus, from this category. Sonnet number 18, sonnet number 73. Fervour sonnets are dedicated to a man called Mr. W.H. This category is dedicated to a mysterious man called Mr. W.H. because the real identity of Mr. W.H. is not known. Okay, we assume that there are 4 Mr. W.H. but the real identity is not known. The dark lady sonnets are dedicated to a dark lady. Dark means the color complexion is dark, with whom it is often said Shakespeare was amazed by this lady and dedicated a whole group of sonnets to her. The last 2 is dedicated to the god of love, Greek god of love, Cupid. Now the important thing is the change of form. Okay, in Italian sonnet we had 2 stanzas, octave and sestet. Here we have 4 stanzas. 4 stanzas. Even Spenser changed this. Spenser also wrote in 4 stanzas. And the division is like this. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. See, this is 14. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. So there are 4 stanzas. 3 stanzas of 4 lines. These 4-line stanzas are called quatrain. The 4-line stanzas are called quatrain. And the 2-line stanza is called couplet. So English sonnets had 3 quatrains, 1 couplet. 3 quatrains, 1 couplet. Arindam, I didn't get you. You wrote William Herbert. Put your question. So English sonnet was changed from the Italian one. It had 3 quatrains, 1 couplet. Shakespeare had a different, Shakespeare, Arindam, are you talking about Mr. W.H.? Arindam, are you talking about the identity of W.H.? Okay, so we were talking about the rhyme scheme now of William Shakespeare. He wrote 3 quatrains and 1 couplet, and the rhyme scheme is like this: A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, and G G. I'll be writing down in the chat box. A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, G G. This is the typical Shakespearean rhyme scheme. All his 154 sonnets follow this rhyme scheme. Now I will give you a homework. Spenser changed this rhyme scheme, okay? And that is called Spenserian stanza. Again, very important for your short question. In the next class, you will tell me what is the rhyme scheme of a Spenserian sonnet or what is a Spenserian stanza. It is your next class homework. Arindam, there are 4 Mr. W.H. related to Shakespeare and it is still not known who is the real one. We get 4 Mr. W.H. A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. This is Shakespearean form, Shakespearean rhyme scheme. Edmund Spenser twisted it, changed it, and his stanza formation, his rhyme scheme is known as Spenserian stanza. Your homework for the next class is to tell me what is a Spenserian stanza. Okay. Apart from these 3 major sonneteers, Philip Sidney, Spenser and Shakespeare, we have minor sonneteers. Next is Michael Drayton, who wrote Ideas Mirror. We have Michael Drayton, who wrote Ideas Mirror. It is a sonnet sequence. Next we have Samuel Daniel, who wrote a sonnet sequence called Delia that was dedicated to Lady Pembroke. Samuel Daniel, who wrote a sonnet sequence called Delia that was dedicated to Lady Pembroke. Apart from sonnets, Shakespeare wrote 2 major long poems. As we discussed Spenser's long poems, Shakespeare also wrote a number of long poems. I'll be telling you the major 2. The Rape of Lucrece, Venus and Adonis. The Rape of Lucrece, one poem. The second one is Venus and Adonis. Okay. So this is almost the Elizabethan poetry. There are other lyrical poems, but they are very minor. In Elizabethan age, the major poetical output, we can find it in the form of sonnets. There are other lyrical poems, short minor lyrical poems written by minor poets. See, in this age, there were many poets. I told you, as this age gave importance to the cultural and literary development, so many amateur poets came up who wrote poetry. But we need to focus to the major ones. We have discussed the major ones. Let me tell you, this age is from 1558 to 1603. In 1603, James I ascends the throne. After the death of Queen Elizabeth, James I becomes the king. And 1603 to 1605 is known as Jacobean age. 1603 to 1625, the age of King James I is known as Jacobean age. In many books, you will find this age as later Elizabethan age. Jacobean age টা অনেক বইতে কিভাবে দেওয়া আছে later Elizabethan age. Okay, so we see Shakespeare started his career in Elizabethan age and his career spanned in the Jacobean age. লেখা শুরু করেছিলেন Elizabethan age এ, কিন্তু মোস্টলি ওনার যে ইম্পর্টেন্ট লেখাগুলো সেগুলো আছে Jacobean age. So we will discuss this two age together. Okay, next day we will discuss some of the poetical forms that will fall under the Jacobean age. Okay, this age is very big. Okay, I need another 2 classes to complete the Elizabethan age. In today's class we have discussed the poetical forms, the background of the age and the major sonneteers. Now for the long questions, you need to prepare the major sonneteers of the Elizabethan age. You need to talk about the literary output in of Sidney, Spenser, Shakespeare, Samuel Daniel and Michael Drayton. Okay, they are the major sonneteers. Okay, in the next class we will talk about the drama and the prose. The drama and the prose. Perhaps in the next class we will talk about the Elizabethan drama, that is a vast area, and in the last class, I mean in the third class on Elizabethan age, we will talk about the prose. Sidney, suppose Philip Sidney, who wrote Astrophel and Stella, wrote two prose. Okay, so in the prose form we will discuss the prose output of that age. In today's class we have discussed so far the poetical forms of the Elizabethan age. Now tell me if you have any problems so far, or if you have any questions from today's class, or anything that you need to be repeated. যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে, যদি কিছু রিপিট করতে হয়, আমাকে কমেন্ট করে জানাও, আমি তাহলে সেটা রিপিট করছি। If you have any queries, have you understood today's class? Let me know that. Have you understood the points, the background? Just let me know. Do you need anything to be repeated? So in the next class on Elizabethan literature, I will talk about the drama, and that class will be very important because Shakespeare's drama, university wits and post-Shakespearean dramatists will be in that category, and all are important for long questions. To try to attend that class also, I'll give you the notification of the next live class on Elizabethan age. And if you do not have any questions so far, I'll sign off. Take care and good night.